Just waiting for the YouTube video to kick in. I wish it would do it. There we go. Yes. Guys, what's up? Hey, it's Bumpkins. Welcome to another issue of Comics Daily Weekly. This is issue number 17. Today I'm going to be talking about Marvel Comics released in December 1967. So real quick, if you don't know, Comics Daily Weekly is a weekly stream podcasty type thing that I do usually every Monday night. Getting a little bit of a late start this time, but it's a weekly stream I do talking about all the comics released by Marvel Comics in a given month. Usually I cover 1 month's worth of books every week on either Twitter at _ Comics Daily or Instagram at _ Comics Daily IG. 1 week, I cover 1 month a week. So last week I talked about, I read and talked about comics released in November 1967. This week is comics released in December 1967. Next week, January 68. You get the idea. Now, it's not everything that Marvel Comics released at the time. Just some of the books I wanted to read. Not everything. I didn't feel like reading everything. But the point of this is to experience these comics as they came out back in the day. So we can see the first appearance of new characters. We can see how the events in one book influence the events in another book. A great example of that is the stuff going on in Tales of Suspense with Captain America is reflected in what we see in the Avengers. We can see new creators come on the book. We can see the evolution of characters, that kind of thing, especially with I think about Flash Thompson and Peter Parker, how they were rivals and they're kind of starting to be buddies and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a way to experience these books as they came out back in the day. Of course, we know a lot more about them now than they did back then, but it's all right. So real quick, the comics we're going to be talking about today, like I said, from December 1967 are Amazing Spider-Man number 55, which you can see right there, Tales of Suspense number 96, Daredevil number 35, Avengers number 47, Strange Tales number 163, and Fantastic Four number 69. So all of those books were released in December 1967. I read usually 6 books a week. There's 7 days in a week, so usually on Saturdays it's kind of a wild card day. Saturday of last week I actually read Seven to Eternity number 1, which was really, really good, by Rick Remender and Jerome Opeña of Fear Agent fame. They teamed up on a run of the Avengers several years ago that was pretty good, pretty heady, pretty interesting. A little bit over my head, but I still enjoyed it. But anyway, that's beside the point. Right now, we are going to talk about Marvel Comics, December 1967, Amazing Spider-Man number 55. This is a continuation of what will be, I guess you'd say a 4-part story. The next part, it kind of wraps up in Amazing Spider-Man number 56, which I read yesterday, posted about on these 2 accounts yesterday, and I'll be talking about on this show next week. But this is kind of a classic story because I've talked about it over the last couple weeks, but it's kind of a classic story because this is the one where Dr. Octopus moves in with Aunt May and Anna Watson. It's pretty funny. So just a quick recap in case you weren't here last week or if you haven't read these books. Dr. Octopus is after this secret military weapon. Spider-Man stops him. Doc Ock needs to lay low. Meanwhile, Aunt May and Anna Watson decide they're going to rent out their spare bedroom. Doc Ock learns about this, I guess, through the paper, realizes, hey, that's a great place to lay low, and he moves in with Aunt May and Anna Watson, which is going to lead to some more sort of fun and silly stories with Doc Ock and Aunt May at some point. But Peter found out last issue, got super mad. They had a big fight in Aunt May's house. Aunt May witnessed this. She passed out because Aunt May is so frail that she could die if the wind changes. That's how frail Aunt May was back in the 60s. And so Peter is now stark raving mad, and he is hot on the heels of Doc Ock. Now, real quick, before we get into this is the first time that... so I do all this digitally. So everything you see over here is from the Marvel Unlimited website. So I read all these on the Marvel Unlimited app on my iPad. And then I use the Marvel Unlimited on the web, which isn't super great, but I use that over here to show you the pages. But this is the first time I'm actually able to hold up the printed issue that we're reading. So I bought this a long time ago. It's super beat up, guys. I mean, it's like somebody colored in like with pen, like the white in his glares get me, but somebody colored in with pen like the white in all of his eyes, and I think up around like in the logo, it's all colored in and down here, so it's real beat up. Not in good condition at all. But when I bought this years and years and years ago, I just wanted to have the book. You know, I just wanted to have it in my collection. So this is actually the earliest issue of Amazing Spider-Man that I own. If you don't count like reprints, like the Marvel Masterworks of Amazing Spider-Man #1, that kind of stuff. So it's cool to have the print edition. I would love to eventually have the print editions, or at least the Epic collections of all the books I'm doing. Maybe we could flip through pages instead of flipping through screens, but we'll get there. So anyway, in this issue, like I said, Peter is super mad, super angry with Dr. Octopus. He's on the rampage going after Doc Ock. Now, what happens is, though, that Doc Ock actually manages to regain possession of the purple nullifier weapon. What do they call it? The military, yeah, the military's nullifier weapon. And it's purple, for whatever reason. So Ock actually manages to get his hands on it, and hilarity ensues from there. We do get a couple of... One thing I want to touch on real quick, and I noted this in these two accounts below, is we do get a brief glimpse. I love... My favorite parts of all these books, and I say it every week, is not the fights, although in the action, although we get a lot of that, but I love, now as an adult, I love the character moments, or the moments with the supporting cast, because I will argue till I'm blue in the face that Spider-Man has the best supporting cast in all of comics, especially this era. Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, Flash Thompson, Harry Osborn, Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, Aunt May, Anna Watson, and I feel like I've left out somebody. So, Betty Brant, Ned Leeds. And I love these moments, and I love... One thing I mentioned on Twitter that I'm going to talk about real quick, because I'm trying not to spend too much time on all these books. I'm trying to keep these videos to a shorter length than normal. But I love the friendly rivalry between Gwen and MJ. I mean, it's great. Like, it would have been so easy for them in the 60s to write these two characters as like being sort of catty and always arguing, fighting over Peter. But they just more sort of bicker. They just kind of poke at each other instead. Gwen pops in when Mary Jane's with Peter, and Mary Jane just says, someone must have just stuck a pin in their little MJ doll. Gwen asks if there's anything she can do, and MJ says, how about you say goodbye? And Gwen just kind of brushes it off, and they just have a friendly rivalry. And I just love that about these books, because it's so atypical of this era of comics, that two girls want the same guy, but are still kind of friendly to each other. So I love that. I think that's one of the reasons I read books like in this way, is so that we can see how these characters interact and develop and things like that. But the rest of the issue is just Doc Ock, he hatches a plan to get the weapon, and he does. I thought this was a pretty cool panel of Ock just, you see how it is. You see this bottom panel. I saw that's a really cool panel of him using his arms to wreak havoc. He does get the weapon back. Spider-Man goes after him. We get a little bit of... Harry Osborn's got a little bit of beef with Peter in these last few days for being so secretive and being gone all the time. But Spider-Man tracks Doc Ock down, sees that he has the nullifier. Doc Ock uses the nullifier against the authorities that are coming after him. Of course, Spider-Man intervenes. They scrap a little bit. It's all your typical villain steals the weapon, hero tries to stop him. So none of that is really all that special. You can see there's some really cool fight scenes. Really, Doc Ock has always been up there as one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. Not my number one. That's the Green Goblin for me. But, when we first started talking about this storyline that began in Amazing Spider-Man 53, it had been 20 issues since we had even seen Doc Ock. John Romita hadn't even gotten his hand on Doc Ock until 2 issues ago. So just when this storyline started, it made me realize how much I kind of miss Doc Ock and how much he's a great villain. And the fights with him and Spidey are always so fun, because Spider-Man's always flipping and dodging his arms and trying to web him up. And we get a lot of that here. So none of this is really notable. Just, two guys going at it over possession of this military weapon until the end when Doc Ock actually hits Spider-Man with the nullifier right here. And it really messes with Spider-Man in a way that causes him to, drumroll please, at the end of the issue, he loses his memory. So Spider-Man now has amnesia. Doc Ock recognizes this and now is trying to convince Spider-Man that, hey, you're my partner in crime. And Spider-Man, of course, doesn't know any better. So this is going to play into the next issue, again, which is what I read yesterday and posted about yesterday. So we'll see the fallout of that next issue. And spoiler alert, it actually carries on into the issue after that, too. So number 57, which I haven't, that'll come next week. Show, and we'll talk about it on this show 2 weeks from now. But yeah, so Spider-Man's lost his memory, and now Doc Ock says that, hey, yeah, I know you don't remember this, but we're buddies, we're partners in crime, and you need to work with me. So that was pretty cool. Like I said, nothing super notable. This is just a continuation of a really fun classic story with Doc Ock. Nothing too notable about this until the end, with an amnesia-ridden Spider-Man. So more to come on that next week. So we're going to move on over to Tales of Suspense number 96. So just a quick reminder that for the last almost 40 issues, 35, 36 issues or something like that, this has been a double feature between Captain America and Iron Man. And it's kind of funny because they switch up whose name comes first in the cover art, even though it's always the Iron Man story that comes first. So after this issue, we've got 3 more issues of Tales of Suspense. That's a double feature. After that, Iron Man's going to break off into his own comic, restarting with Iron Man number 1. Captain America is going to continue the numbering of this title, only it's going to be just renamed Captain America instead of Tales of Suspense. That's going to start with issue number 100. And we are with issue 97, which I read and posted about today. That Captain America story really starts us on the path of getting to Captain America number 100. But for right now, we get a couple of good Captain America and Iron Man stories. So starting off, Iron Man is a continuation of the story last week where he was fighting the Gray Gargoyle. The Gray Gargoyle, if you don't know, is a villain who found this chemical. He douses himself in this chemical. It turns him to stone, but like a living stone. And it's kind of a King Midas thing where anything the Gray Gargoyle touches turns to stone, like a statue. So you can see here, Iron Man, at the end of last issue, Gray Gargoyle got his hands on Iron Man, turned him to stone. He's like a statue. He can't move, and threw him off the top of Stark Industries. So I was actually pretty curious last week. How is Iron Man going to get out of this? Like, obviously he gets out of it, but I didn't know how they were going to pull that off. Because he's basically this stone statue plummeting to the ground. So that happens with Jasper Sitwell, who showed up in last issue. Nick Fury assigned him to sort of shadow Tony Stark, sort of be his bodyguard, because so much crap happens around Stark Industries, so many attacks and things like that. So Jasper Sitwell, and you can actually, he goes and gets a truck full of sand and manages to drive it. I don't know how he does it so fast, but he manages to drive it under Iron Man, and Iron Man lands in the sand. And it's kind of funny. There's a caption here that says, lest any soofers amongst you think we dragged this truck out of left field, take a look at our last issue. It was there all the time. And I went and looked, and it really was. There was a panel with this truck. It wasn't purple like this, but there actually was a truck full of sand. So I guess they were really planning ahead. So Jasper Sitwell manages to save Iron Man from that. Now, the thing with Gray Gargoyle's power is that it only lasts for like an hour. So if you can just sort of wait it out, if you can not get knocked off of a building, you'll be fine in an hour. So meanwhile, Gray Gargoyle is on a quest to steal a weapon from Stark Industries that's going to help him defeat Thor. So right now, Gray Gargoyle is a big Thor villain. He gets it. He uses it on the cops to try to stop him. Meanwhile, I guess it's been an hour. The timing of this whole thing is really weird. But it's been an hour because Iron Man reverts to his normal self, his normal non-stone self. And proceeds to chase down Grey Gargoyle. Now, we do tread into a little bit of territory that I was hoping we would never see again, and that is Iron Man running out of juice. And that used to happen in every issue of this in the earlier days, and I used to hate it. It used to just drag down the stories. I like my heroes to be, well, they don't have to be like all powerful all the time, because that's like DC heroes, right? But so it's cool that they have flaws and they're a little bit fallible. But Iron Man was like all the time, I'm running out of juice. I don't have any power. My heart's gonna stop, and they're gonna win, and whatever. And that wasn't ever really that fun. So we haven't seen that in a long time. We do get back into it here. So it's not so fun, but it's not so bad if it happens every once in a while. So basically, he's battling Grey Gargoyle. Jasper Sitwell gets caught in. It's actually kind of cool. They managed to cave the ceiling down on Iron Man and Sitwell actually, knowing that he'll be crushed by the ceiling, the roof caving in, he actually purposely touches Grey Gargoyle and knowing that he's going to get turned to stone right here. So I thought that was actually pretty cool that he did that on purpose to save himself, and he'll snap out of it in an hour. So Iron Man manages to get enough juice out of his. I thought this was cool too. Iron Man repulsor blasts Grey Gargoyle. Grey Gargoyle actually turns the blast into stone. So you see how it's all jagged right here. That's the repulsor blast, like it's turned to stone. That was pretty cool, I thought. But Iron Man does get the upper hand, manages to crank out enough juice, manages to, what does he say? Short-circuited the Cobalt device. Cobalt Ray. Well, I forgot that's what it was called. He short-circuits the Cobalt Ray, which knocks out Grey Gargoyle. It reverts him back to his normal form. You can see right here. But it also renders Iron Man unconscious. Sitwell wants to see if Iron Man is still breathing, so he says, I've got to remove his helmet. And that's the big cliffhanger. It's like, oh no, Jasper Sitwell's going to remove Iron Man's helmet and see that he's Tony Stark. So, and then next issue we get the first appearance of Whiplash. So that was pretty cool. I think the better story is going to come next, the issue after that. So it's 2 issues from this. So yeah, so Jasper Sitwell's going to remove Iron Man's helmet. That's going to be crazy, and we'll see what happens next week. But moving on into the Captain America story. So if you remember from last week, Captain America, Steve Rogers decided to stop being Captain America so that he could have a normal life. And hold on just one second. Yep, okay. So Steve Rogers decided to stop being Captain America so he could have a normal life. He wants a life with Agent 13, who is still sort of duty-bound to S.H.I.E.L.D., even though Nick Fury said, when your work is done, we'll let you go, and you guys can go be together. So, in the meantime, Steve Rogers also has basically outed himself as Captain America. So everybody knows that Steve Rogers is Captain America now. So this story is all about people wanting to continue the Captain America legacy. So like you see in this panel down here, the bottom panel, that's not actually Steve Rogers, that's somebody else. But it's dangerous because all of these guys, all of these regular citizens dressing up, pretending to be Captain America, wanting to do the good that Captain America does, well, goons and bad guys and stuff are still targeting those guys because they think maybe it's the real Captain America. So all of these innocent people with none of Captain America's skills are being put in danger, right? So all of this little fight scene right here, that's just some random guy. That's not actually that's not Steve Rogers. So, however, this imposter Steve Rogers is, sorry, that was my squeaky chair. This imposter Steve Rogers gets knocked off the roof, and real Steve Rogers actually sees him, so he actually manages to save him, and he helps him take out these goons that are after him. And, you know, big shocker, this helps Steve Rogers decide that he needs to continue being Captain America, that it's his responsibility. Shield intervenes here. We've got a cool LMD, life model decoy of Steve Rogers. So Nick Fury, Dum Dum Dugan jump in as well. So yeah, but because of all this, because of his overwhelming sense of responsibility and realizing that other people are putting their lives in danger to carry forward the legacy of Captain America, Steve Rogers decides that he's gonna wield the shield again. So that leads us. So this was kind of a little bit of a two-parter with last week, with Steve Rogers having a little bit of crisis of conscience. Every hero's done it. Tony Stark has quit once before. Peter Parker has quit already once. I don't think Daredevil has yet. But yeah, so it happens. So anyway, he's back to being Captain America, and next week starts the big, I think it's like 4 parts, which is going to lead us into Captain America 100. So we'll see the beginning of that next week. All right, so moving on to Daredevil number 35. You guys know that I haven't really been enjoying Daredevil for a while. And this issue actually was kind of okay. So this issue features the Trapster. And I did make a note on Twitter that just said that I just love how in the 60s they were really trying to make the Trapster a thing, like a legitimate villain, when all he has is really like a paste gun. He can paste, later on they call him Paste Pot Pete, or I think they even have before, and that's sort of a running joke. I remember reading some spectacular, I think I have them around here, some Spectacular Spider-Man comics from the 80s era where Spidey keeps calling him Paste Pot Pete, and Trapster gets all mad about that. So this issue is interesting though, because the Trapster comes up with supposedly the perfect way to kill Daredevil. But he first wants to ask Nelson and Murdoch if, by going through with his plan, like if he'll be able to get away with it. So he basically says, if you kill somebody, but the body is never found, can you go to jail? Because there's no real evidence that that person is dead and that you did it. And so it's funny that he bursts in seeking legal advice from Nelson and Murdoch. I kind of think this panel is sort of funny because I'm a 12-year-old. If you can see it there. I don't need to talk about it. But Matt Murdock tells him, well, it's not that simple. It depends on the circumstances and that kind of thing. So Trapster leaves and goes on to carry out this plan with taking care of Daredevil. So basically what his plan is, and there's a fight here. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Trapster's not a match for Daredevil. Trapster's not a match for anybody, really. But what Trapster's plan is he has these anti-gravity discs that he got from his buddy the Wizard. They were together in the Frightful Four, and I think they come back in the Frightful Four at some point. But his big plan is he is going to stick these to Daredevil and make him float away, right? If Daredevil takes him off, he's going to fall to his death and that kind of thing. So that's his perfect plan, is Daredevil's going to float away or fall to his death. Meanwhile, so now that Daredevil is dispatched of, Trapster actually dresses up as Daredevil in order to get into the Baxter building, because he's going to exact revenge on the Fantastic Four, because at this point he's primarily a Fantastic Four villain. Sue Storm is the only one, or Sue Richards, I guess now, is the only one home, and this was kind of neat. I didn't expect this cameo from Sue Richards in Daredevil, so that's pretty cool. He manages to spray her with his paste, I guess, and he rigs a bomb in their Baxter building, sort of like a proximity bomb. See, this bugs me. Sue Richards is so underpowered in the 60s. I can't wait till we get to the 70s and she becomes a little bit more of a badass. I think she's the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four. Maybe even one of the most powerful in the Marvel Universe, although that can be debated. But depending on how she uses her powers. But anyway, she doesn't do much in these early days. But Daredevil manages to free himself, and it's the typical, he pulls the things off and catches himself during the fall. But what happens is Trapster rigs a bomb in the Baxter building, and it's triggered by body heat. So, as soon as somebody comes in, it's going to explode. And he does that because if he just set a timer or whatever, the building would explode, but he would only be able to take out Sue when he wants to take out all the Fantastic Four. So he rigs it based on body heat. So Daredevil wants to go talk to the Fantastic Four about this, and he's going to go in through the window. Coincidentally, the window into the room where Sue is stuck to the floor. So the big cliffhanger is she's going to get, his body heat is going to set off the bomb, and they're going to die. So that's the cliffhanger. We'll see how it goes next issue. But even though it featured the Trapster, who is a really silly villain, I actually kind of dug this issue a little bit better than the last several issues. But that's not saying this issue is great. That's just saying that those last several issues, the bar was so low it was buried in the ground. It just wasn't. It just wasn't super great. So those haven't been super great. This one was a little bit better, and we'll see how they get out of it. I'll be reading that one. I'm streaming this on Monday the 7th. Daredevil. I'll be reading this next issue tomorrow on Tuesday the 8th. So follow either of these accounts if you're watching the live stream or whatever, and we'll see how it goes. So let's see. All right. So Avengers number 47 is a sort of a weird issue of Avengers because nothing really happens except for at the end. Wait a minute, 47, right? Yeah, there we go. This actually is more of an issue that's mostly Magneto, and then talking about how he met Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and at the end he lures them to him to try to convince them to work with him. So really the only notable thing that happened in this issue, so the beginning of this is just Magneto. So apparently, and I guess this happened in the pages of X-Men that I'm not reading so far. I think I actually am going to pick it up, maybe start reading it and posting about it here in the next, I'll tell you, because I have a spreadsheet that tells me when I'm going to be reading what. Actually, next Saturday on the 12th, December 12th. No, this Saturday on the 12th. I'm actually going to start reading X-Men with Uncanny X-Men number 40. Well, I don't know if I'll stick with it. I'm going to read it for Saturday. So anyway, in the pages of X-Men, I guess at some point Magneto and Toad are stuck on the moon? I think they're not on Earth, right? But this scientist is actually trying to reach out and make contact with other alien races using magnetic waves, which Magneto is able to latch onto, and that helps him and Toad get back to Earth. So I'm sort of butchering that a little bit, but that happened according to the caption here in X-Men number 11 and 18. I don't quite know the story there, but what's more important is Magneto's not on Earth, and he comes back to Earth, and most of this issue is him recounting his first encounter with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Now, we also do see the Black Knight's nephew. Dane, I think is his name. Yeah, my late uncle, Professor Nathan Garrett. I don't know a lot about the Black Knight, and I need to learn because he's going to be in the Eternals movie next year. So I need to get caught up on that. So he's in this as well. I'm not sure if this is his first appearance or not. Maybe it is. I probably should have looked at them before I started this. But he's only in it for just a little bit. So the most notable thing in this issue that I'm trying to get to is that Captain America quits the Avengers. So this actually sort of ties into what we have been reading the last couple issues in Tales of Suspense, where Steve Rogers wants to quit being Captain America. That also means he's going to quit the Avengers. Now, we know that's not going to last for too long, but right here, this last couple panels of this page is Captain America quitting the Avengers. So that happened. Hawkeye's all distressed about it. We do get a little bit thing here. So Hercules goes to Olympus to see what's going on, and he sees that Olympus is deserted. Now, we don't get any more of that story in this issue, so I guess more to come on that in upcoming issues, I guess. Like I said, I haven't read a lot of these old ones, so I'm not really for sure, but we'll find out. But then going back to the main story, Magneto recounting his first encounter with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. He has also reached out to them using that same device that has summoned him back to Earth. They arrive at this castle, which I love superheroes in castles. And the rest of it's just a big fight. Of course, they have to fight this big robot first because it's the 60s and every bad guy has a robot or an android of some sort. And then they fight. And then Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver fight Magneto. And I do kind of think Magneto wins in the end, and we're going to see what happens with this next issue. Now, one thing that's kind of notable about this too is that Quicksilver, last issue he saved Avengers Mansion from being blown up. Right? He found the bomb that had been planted, threw it out in the ocean. He's a big hero, right? Well, a lot of the humans that were around then at the time, he still heard them talking about how they don't trust him because he's a mutant, and that sort of he didn't like that. Suffice to say, so that was a little bit of a seed planted, I think, that is going to lead to Quicksilver leaving the team, and I do know that at some point he rejoins Magneto. So I don't know if it's this or not, but I do kind of think that little couple panels last issue combined with this right here is going to lead to something. So maybe we'll get a little bit more next issue because we're not done with this story. But yeah, this was just a weird issue because it didn't feel like an Avengers issue. It felt like a Magneto tale, like a Magneto one-shot almost, with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So it was all right. I don't love the early X-Men stuff. I don't love the early Magneto and the early Quicksilver. That's why I'm not reading X-Men right now, so didn't really blow my skirt up too much. But maybe, we're about to get into the really good stuff, though. Vision is just around the corner in another few weeks, and Black Panther's about to join the team, so there's going to be some good stuff coming real soon. All right, so Strange Tales number 163. Strange Tales, again, is a double feature with Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Doctor Strange. I'm only reading the Nick Fury stuff. No slide against Doctor Strange. I just didn't feel like reading Doctor Strange, that's all. So this is continuing the story that we've been with for a few issues now, where Nick Fury has enlisted the help of Jimmy Woo to take down Yellow Claw. So at the end of last issue, Nick Fury infiltrated Yellow Claw's base, but Yellow Claw was ready for him, and he threw him down a pit to fight with a big squid, a big octopus. I'm just trying to pull up my notes for this one. The cool thing about this issue that I want to stop on several pages in this issue, because the visual storytelling in this issue is pretty striking and quite a bit different from anything we've gotten so far in any of the other books that we've been reading so far. So Jim Steranko doing the story and art on this one, and he's just getting better and better every issue. So for example, at the beginning of this, he's fighting this big squid, this big octopus, and the first thing that really caught my eye, and this doesn't zoom in properly, but that actually is exactly what I need right there. So he pulls out a knife to stab this octopus. He goes for the killing blow, and then the next panel is him doing it, but there's no word balloons, there's no sound effects, but it turns red. The rest of it you can see has like this sort of greenish bluish hue to it, but then the panel with the killing blow is red to sort of signify that's like a death shot, right? And then it goes back to looking normal. So I just thought, so that's one example, and there's several more in this, of really, really awesome visual storytelling in this, which I found really, really well done and just different. We just haven't gotten a lot of this kind of stuff in these books so far. So he escapes the base. We are introduced, once he gets back to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, we are introduced to Clay Quartermain, who is a character who appears on and off throughout the years as part of S.H.I.E.L.D. The funny thing, I want to focus on his face right here. Again, for some reason, this title doesn't zoom properly, so I can't ever focus on one panel. It only ever wants to zoom in, like on a strip. But look at the panel on the right there, and take in that expression for Clay Quartermain, and keep that in your head, because that is the expression he's going to have throughout this whole issue, regardless of the situation he's in. So keep an eye on, is like kind of got the goofy grin and the closed eyes. So keep an eye on that. So Nick Fury and Clay Quartermain are going to. Oops, I activated SIRI on my phone for some reason. I'm not sure why. So basically, they find out that Yellow Claw wants to steal a weapon from AIM, and they've got to stop it, right? So AIM is a factor in this story as well. So it's not only Yellow Claw, it's AIM. So you've kind of got Yellow Claw versus AIM versus Shield. Like all these three different groups are all against each other. So you see what I'm talking about? Like right there. You see right there? Like he's got that goofy look on his face. Like you can see it in the next panel too. Like regardless of the situation, he's got that same look on his face. This is another example of really cool visual storytelling. There's no words. AIM operative picks up a wooden crate, smashes it on Fury's head. Nick Fury just kind of like, ow, that hurt, kind of rubs it off, stands up to look at the AIM operative, and the AIM guy gets scared and runs away. There's no words whatsoever. That is so rare for a book from the Silver Age, because one of the things that makes the Silver Age kind of tough to get into is that every issue is so verbose. There's so many words to read. During every fight, the hero says, the villain says, I bet you didn't see how I was gonna deflect your attack with this attack. And the hero says, yeah, but you didn't expect me to do this attack. It's almost like anime where they have to call out their attacks, right? It's so wordy. And seeing this is so much more refreshing. I don't need them to tell me what they're doing. Let the pictures speak for themselves. And right here, the pictures, this whole sequence, this whole 4-panel sequence definitely speaks for itself. I loved this panel, or this sequence. This was so awesome. And there's one more sequence that we're going to key in on here in a minute. So they managed to get the AIM weapon, or I don't know if it's really, they call it a weapon, but it's this weird dragon statue thing. Now they know that somehow Yellow Claw manages to infiltrate the shield. I didn't really understand this. This was kind of weird. He sort of phased into the shield base and grabbed the statue and faded away. I don't really understand how. That was a little bit weird to me, but this is a classic Strange Tales where Shield is one step ahead of the bad guy, but actually the bad guy is really one step ahead of Shield, but really Shield is even one further step ahead of the bad guy. So, needless to say, the artifact that Yellow Claw stole wasn't the real one. Nick Fury knew that this was going to happen somehow, and he had a replica made. And he opens up right here in that panel. He opens up a secret compartment, and the real thing is there. So really, what this thing is, it's not really a weapon, but it's actually. And I don't know why they made it look like this dragon thing here, but really, what it is it's a secret way that AIM stored the name of 4 different physicists who made 4 different components to the AIM weapon that Yellow Claw is trying to steal. They had talked earlier in the issue about the Shield guys couldn't figure out how to get the information out of it. They scanned it and they did all this stuff and they couldn't figure it out. Come to find out, you have to Fury drops it, and if you strike it a certain way, it gives you an audible reveals their names, right? So, knowing this, having the 4 names to these 4 physicists, Nick Fury goes to try to save them all. But Yellow Claw beats him to 3 of them. And it looks like Yellow Claw is going to get to the 4th one. But once again, classic Strange Tales, it is a thing of where it's a thing where Shield is ahead of Yellow Claw, right? It turns out, so Yellow Claw goes to get the last physicist, tears off his face. Really, it's Nick Fury. I surprised you, but this is really cool here. Shoot, let me zoom in this way instead. Well, I can't really. Darn it. So, okay, so yeah. Nick Fury rips off his face to reveal that it's Nick Fury. But Yellow Claw, I don't know why she keeps going off on my phone. So Yellow Claw like does this weird thing with his eyes, and more great visual storytelling right here. The panel goes black and white to signify that Yellow Claw is like doing so, like having some kind of effect on Fury's mind, because then the next sequence here, the top of this panel, the colors change, no words, no sound effects, but you can see the expression in Fury's face. Looks normal, then feels a little bit uncertain, starts to sweat, his eyes go big, and then he passes out. And that's so cool. And then Yellow Claw zaps him with this, with the device. I guess, well, I didn't really pick up on it. This story was a little bit weird. But I guess Yellow Claw got the device from AIM, zaps Fury with it, and it looks like he is disintegrated. And that's the cliffhanger. So, spent a little bit more time on that particular issue than I planned on, but it was just so cool. The visual storytelling of this issue was really, really cool. A little bit, like quite a bit more innovative than anything we've read thus far. So, it was really cool. The story at times was a little bit confusing and didn't really make a lot of sense. The reason people did things was a little bit weird, but it's still cool. So with Strange Tales, one thing I forgot to mention, that was 163. We only have like 5 or 6 more issues before Nick Fury leaves the title. Like the book drops Nick Fury, and Nick Fury actually goes into his own title. Marvel Unlimited only has a couple of those, and I don't think they're in order, so we're not going to be with Nick Fury and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. much longer on this show and on these accounts, is what I'm saying. But this was cool. I'm excited to see what happens with Nick Fury, because it sure does look like he was disintegrated into nothing. We'll find out next week. Fantastic Four, number 69, LOL. This issue continues. If you remember last issue, Ben really wanted Reed to help him turn back into his normal self, even though, I got to put the footnote here, Ben has had several opportunities to revert himself, back into his human form, and has actively chosen not to, even at one point citing that Alicia liked him better as the Thing. So, but now he wants to be transformed back because he thinks Alicia doesn't love him. So, Ben is really emotional. Ben needs some therapy in these early issues. So, anyway, in order to help Reed do that, Reed calls for the help of this doctor, Dr. Santini, who is like this world-renowned biochemist. Meanwhile, Dr. Santini never makes it to the Baxter building. A mysterious figure, a mysterious person, manages to kidnap him and assume his identity. We don't know who it is yet, although you can kind of figure it out reading last issue, and it was confirmed for us this issue, and that was right. So we'll get to that in a minute. But this mysterious person goes to the Baxter building, sabotages the experiment, and what it does is it does change Ben, but it doesn't revert him to his human form, and actually messes with his mind, and basically just turns him into this angry person who's like out to destroy Reed and the rest of the Fantastic Four, which was the goal of the bad guy in the first place. So all that said, this issue is really Reed, Sue, and Johnny versus Ben is really what this is. The whole, like you can see here, Ben is just, you try to make a fool of me, Richards. You said you changed me back to Ben Grimm, but look at me. Now I know you never wanted to help me. You hate me. You always hated me. That's why you tried to kill me, but I'm going to make sure you never get a chance again. So, and it's like it doesn't even stay confined to the Baxter building. Like, they go all over town, all over New York. They're calling in airstrikes. I mean, it's almost like King Kong. At the end, we'll see it here in a minute, but with the planes coming in and Ben scaling the buildings and stuff. But this whole issue is Reed trying to stop Ben while also, because Ben's on a rampage. I mean, you think about big, strong Ben Grimm, the Thing. He's a formidable opponent, and when he cuts loose, he is dangerous. And he's going on a rampage through the Baxter building. Johnny and Sue are trying to help Reed. Reed's trying to tell him to, get away, get away. He only wants me. He's too dangerous, that kind of thing. So while all this is going on, the fake Dr. Santini is breaking into Reed's lab, getting all of his notes, and here we go. Apparently he carries a spray, which I called this out on Twitter. He carries a spray that dissolves all of his makeup and his hastily grown mustache. So he can make a killing, using this as hair remover, I thought. And it turns out that, big shocker, it was a thinker, which you could kind of tell because all last issue he was talking about how his meticulous planning and his advanced computers predicted all this stuff. And that's the thinker's MO, right? So it's the thinker that did all this, which I like the thinker. I think he's pretty cool. So anyway, as you can see here, it's just a big, Ben's going nuts, chasing Reed all over the city. Meanwhile, the thinker is stealing all of Reed's notes and looking at his equipment. He actually sees that Reed has found the doorway, if you will, to the negative zone. But he'd actually, and see here, look at this. Does this not look like King Kong right here? Like Ben's scaling the buildings and there's planes coming in and they're calling in airstrikes on him. And, I mean, I think that's a little bit of overkill. I feel like in the time it took, they wouldn't have destroyed that much of the city yet for freaking airplanes to be called. And although Sue did manage to get to the police, told them what happened, and this is their response. So Ben is just tearing up stuff. Ben is just going nuts at this point, tearing up everything. I mean, it's actually kind of cool. I mean, Jack Kirby does a great job here. There's some Kirby dots there in the bottom right panel. Jack Kirby does a great job illustrating all the destruction. But, Ben is just going nuts, tearing up everything he can see. And meanwhile, the thinker sees that Reed has found the doorway to the negative zone, which I thought, oh, cool. Where is this going to go? The thinker's going to get access to the negative zone, but nothing actually really happens with that, at least in this issue. Reed manages to escape Ben's rampage with the help of Sue, and then the whole thing ends with Ben walking off. So there's not a resolution to this yet. This isn't the end of this story arc. The city, not the whole city, but at least a section of the city is smoke and rubble because Ben has just torn it all to pieces, and he walks off still thinking about getting revenge on Reed. So for all intents and purposes right now, Ben is a straight up bad guy, and he is going to seek revenge on Reed. Now, obviously, he gets snapped out of it. Probably Reed is going to come up with some device and zap him with it, and it's going to set him right or something like that. So, we'll see probably next issue how that wraps up. But I just thought that was pretty cool. I expected that resolution to come this issue, and it didn't. So we've got more of this story come next issue. So we'll see how it goes. But it was pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty crazy. I mean, Ben was just... The level of destruction caused by one character who wasn't technically a bad guy, even though he kind of was in this. It was pretty cool to see. So this was a pretty good issue, and I can't wait to see how he snaps out of it. So that's it. That's it for this week. Like I said, normally it's 6 books. Last week it was all 7. Next week it's going to be 7 as well. So next week I'll be talking about the comics that I'm reading this week, the week of December 6th, 7th. Today's the 7th. So if you like that stuff, if you want to, see what I'm reading every day, see the things that I'm noticing, and I tweet out and post a bunch of different panels with notes on each one, at least on Twitter, notes on each one. Follow me at either of these accounts. Don't forget the underscore at the begin. Wait, I'm bad with this. Don't forget the underscore at the beginning of either of these accounts. It's at _comicsdaily on Twitter or _comicsdaily IG on Instagram. I post stuff every day. One of these issues every day on both of those accounts. So if you want to, follow along with me as I read these every day, follow either one of those accounts. If you like this video or any of these other videos on YouTube, maybe hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, if you're watching the stream, or if you watch it in a rerun later and you like it, maybe hit the like button. If you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, and we'll say it's a sarcastic like. If nothing else, leave me a comment though, and let me know, if you've ever read any of these old stories from the Silver Age. Which are your favorites? What you don't like? A lot of them aren't great. I really love Spider-Man the best. I think it's the best of all the Silver Age books. But yeah, just let me know what you're reading and what you like, or just anything. I love talking about comic books. I can talk about it with a room full of people or to nobody through a camera. I can just talk about this stuff all day. So that's it. Like I said, next week is January 1968. So 24 more weeks. So that's another 6 months. That sounds about right. That's another 6 months. And we will be into the Bronze Age into the 1970s, which I'm really excited about. Actually, if you go to the Twitter account, I have a pinned tweet that has a link to the Google spreadsheet that I made that outlines everything I'm going to read and when for the next 2 years, because I'm that nerd who plans that far ahead. So I can tell you, by the end of 2022, we'll be at the end of 1976, which is pretty cool. That is, I don't want to say the golden era, because that's not the golden age, it's the Bronze Age, but that's the real sweet spot of a lot of these stories. So I'm excited to get out of the 60s and into the 70s, where we get more books, more characters, more of the classic stories that you probably have heard of, that have probably influenced some of the movies and things like that. So it's a really fun time, though. I really enjoy doing this. So guys, I'm out of here for now. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next week, stay safe, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.